Bob Landiss.
And I'm Kara Landiss. We live here on St. George Island and we love it. It's a boater's paradise.
Kara and I really enjoy all the time we spend with family and friends on the water. We've learned a lot boating around St. George Island in the last 2 or 3 years. We want you to have fun on the water down here too. And we're going to show you a few things today that we've learned, some of it the hard way, about boating on the Forgotten Coast.
When you're trailering your boat to the Forgotten Coast, oftentimes you're traveling for hours or you might be traveling at night. Before you leave, make sure your trailer lights are working, that your wheel bearings are greased, that you have a spare tire, and that your tie downs are tight. Definitely make sure that your trailer tracks without swerving behind your vehicle.
It's a good idea when you're on the road to check your wheel bearings and make sure they're not overheating. All you've got to do is touch them, and if they're too hot to the touch, then you may have a problem brewing and you need to get it checked out. One thing boaters have a tendency to forget is their forward vertical tie-down strap. It's a very important strap because it is the only strap that is holding the bow of the boat down as you're driving.
If your trailer isn't tracking right, you probably have a tongue weight problem. That needs to be addressed before you get on the road.
The state of Florida requires that you have several items on board your vessel. Let's get up on the boat and take a look at what they are. As boaters in Florida, the things that we're required to carry on our vessel are a wearable PFD for each passenger, a throwable PFD, a whistle or horn. If your vessel is 26 feet or longer, 2 B1 type fire extinguishers. If you're under 26 feet, 1 B1 fire extinguisher. You're also required to carry a flare gun with red flares, as they answer the need for daytime and nighttime distress signals. And even if you're from out of state, you need to be carrying your boat registration card. We also carry many other things that are not required by the state, such as a handheld backup GPS and a first aid kit.
We also like to carry bug spray, lots of water, sunblock, and we always like to carry a local chart of the area where we're boating. And remember, children under 6 need to be wearing a life preserver when your vessel's underway.
We have 2 bait and tackle shops on the island that are centrally located, Survivors and Fisherman's Headquarters. They both carry live bait and lots of different kinds of fishing equipment.
Let's go see Larry at Fisherman's Headquarters, see what he's doing.
Sounds good to me. We are standing in front of Fisherman's Headquarters at 40 West Bayshore Drive, right next door to Harry A's. Larry opens up at 6 o'clock in the morning and has just about everything you need to boat and fish in this area. Larry, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you carry?
Okay, Bob, thanks for coming by. We carry a full line of inshore and offshore fishing tackle, all types of frozen bait. We have live shrimp, live pinfish, live finger mullet when they're available. We carry a full line of electrical and plumbing hardware for the house if you get down here and get in a bind. We do repairs to boat trailers. When if you have a last minute problem before you head back to wherever you're going, we can check your trailer out for you. We have a full line of Coast Guard approved safety equipment that we keep on hand. So that's pretty much it.
If you think you might be having a problem with your trailer, you ought to stop by and let Larry take a look at it before you get back out on the highway.
Larry also sells fishing licenses. Anyone under 16 isn't required to have one. However, if you think you're exempt, you need to check this fishing regulations guide that's available for free at local tackle shops. And if you get out on the water and you realize you've forgotten to purchase a license, you can call the 800 number that's printed here in this pamphlet.
Kara, why don't we head over to a favorite launching spot of the locals and see if the tide's right to put our boat in the water?
Sounds good. This is where oystermen working the island side of the bay launch, along with some recreational fishing boats. This part of the bay can get very shallow, even for a flats boat. As long as the water is 1 foot over mean low water, as noted in tidal charts, we can launch our boat here. When you're planning your trip, make sure the tides are right for your trip out and for your trip back in.
This second pole is our visual reference that lets us know whether or not we can launch our boat here successfully. Our boat draws a little bit over 2 feet. As long as the water level is about a foot below the top of this water stain, we've got enough foot out there in the shallowest part of this run to make the run successfully. We're on a rising tide right now, so we're a little bit short of where we need to be. This water really needs to be about right here. It's right there. It'll probably take about an hour for it to come up, but that is our visual reference.
Let's take a quick look at the bay for a minute. No matter how much your boat draws, even if it's under a foot, you need to be very careful. This water shallows up quickly and without a whole lot of warning.
I'll tell you what, even though we don't have quite enough water, let's launch the boat, see if we can make the run out of here and show people what we're talking about. Well, we've had a successful launch. We're in the water, and now what we're going to do is show the way out around that point and down that telephone pole line to get to the main channel. We're going to idle through the first half of it so all the landmarks can be seen clearly. And then when we get out to the telephone pole line, we'll go ahead and run out to the main channel. This is the point that we clear by about 30 feet. What channel there is here is not really in the middle, it's more biased toward that sandbar. When we come out around that sandbar, we're going to turn up toward that telephone pole on the left, toward where that oyster boat is. We just passed over the shallowest part of the run, and we were getting a reading of about 2.5 feet. You don't want to be fooled in this bay by water coloration. What's directly in front of the boat looks like it would be shallower than what's about 40 or 50 yards in front of us. But that's not always the case. A lot of times dark water in this bay is shallow. A lot of it has to do with current and wind and how much of the sandy bottom is being stirred up. This stays shallow out until about the 5th or 6th pole, so we have a ways to go before we're in deeper water. To our left or port side, it's extremely shallow. It's about a foot deep, 20 or 30 feet to our left. If you want to head east in the bay up toward East Pass or the state park, this is a good place past the 5th power pole to make the turn to the right. And you want to head out kind of diagonally to the channel. There are some placed markers out there. You don't want to get any closer than about 100 feet to them. You don't want to make this turn too far down this power line run because there are some shallow water obstacles up there. So it's right around the 5th or 6th pole that it's okay to make that turn.
If you want to go to the west part of the bay, you head down the power pole line on the left side and turn diagonally towards the end of the old bridge. And we're going to demonstrate that for you right now.
When you get about here, you want to make your left turn toward the end of that bridge. We've got a boat sitting out there and he's got the right of way since he's sitting still, so we're going to pull up in a second and go around the end of the bridge slow because you're responsible for whatever damage your wake does. Right now we are in 4 feet of water coming across the tip of the old bridge. You always want to be careful when you're making this run not to get too close to the fishing lines coming off the bridge. Now what you do is head at the new bridge. When you get a couple of 100 feet from it, go ahead and make your right turn and head to the channel. Apalachicola Bay is known for many things. 3 in particular are fishing, oystering, and access to the Gulf of Mexico. When you're zipping around the bay in your boat and you see your depth finder move from 4 to 3 feet, you need to pull up a little bit and take stock of where you are and make sure you're not about to get in water that's too shallow for you to run in. There are lots of sandbars and oyster bars you need to keep an eye out for. To the west side of us is the Apalachicola Bay. About 10 or 11 miles that way is Bob Sykes Cut, Little St. George Island. To the east side of us is St. George Sound. East Pass and Dog Island are about 12 or 13 miles to the east. There are lots of hallowed fishing grounds on both sides.
To the north of us is Cat Point, a very productive oyster bar. To the east of that is the little town of East Point. The bottom structure that makes this bay so productive for marine life can also be extremely hazardous for you and your boat. If you see a white stick out there or any other unofficial man-placed marker, you need to try to stay at least 100 feet away from it, unless you can slow way down to check it out.
This is what we mean by shallow water. I'm standing in about 2 feet of water and the boat's in 3 feet. If I went another 15 or 20 feet that way, I'd be ankle deep. The depth finder went from reading 4 to reading 2, just like that. When you're coming back into the boat launch area, you run down the right side of the poles. We're on a plain, we've got good water. Tide's about 1.5, almost 2 feet over mean low water. And it's just the reverse of what we did before. We're just going to keep the tip of the sandbar about 30 feet off to the right side of the boat. There's that point. We're not getting a depth finder reading. Now we're coming into the pool. And we're reading 3 feet.
Well, that was a successful trip. Now we're going to head over across the bridge to East Point to see our friend Mark Grove at Weefings Marine.
We're at Weefings Marine at 131 Highway 98 in East Point, Florida. And I'm standing here with the owner of Weefings Marine, Mark Grove.
Thank you, Bob.
Good to see you, Mark.
Good to see you.
How about telling us a little bit about your business?
Well, we're a full-service marine supply, boat dealership, repair facility here in East Point. We do new boat sales. We sell used boats. We do consignment boats. We have a complete service department. We service almost all brands of motors. Just about anything you got we can fix. We have a parts store and a motor parts store as well. And we also have charts here at Weefings Marine. We carry 4 brands of paper charts. We have laminated charts from Captain Seagull and Sinbad Traders. We also have waterproof rollable charts from MapTech and the company called Waterproof Charts. Navigation, inshore, offshore, fishing charts with hotspots on them. We can also do electronic charting, whatever your particular machine uses. We can help you find the chart that best suits your needs here at Weefings.
We bought our boat from Mark, and our boat is serviced here, and we've been real happy with the people at Weefings. They're easy to get along with, and we really are glad they're here. If somebody has a breakdown problem, about how long would it take for you to get a part in for them to get them up and going again if they're visiting down here?
Well, if it's a part we have in stock, we would have it and be able to help them out as quickly as we can get them in. Most parts take 1 to 3 days to get, and our marine supplies in the store we generally get overnight with no freight, so we're really able to produce a part pretty quickly in almost all cases.
How about a website? Have you got a website people can go to see what you all do?
We have a great website. It's the web address is www.weefings.com, and we have local weather, tides, charts, information on our boats, motors, trailers that we sell. We have a very interesting website. We have forums where people can get on. We have a fishing report. I do a blog where people can kind of see what's happening in the area. So we have a pretty extensive website. It's a good one to visit, especially when you're away from here and you want to know what's going on.
It's a great company and they're great people. I think what we ought to do is go down to the 10-foot hole and try to launch our boat. So we'll head down toward Apalachicola. Thanks, Mark.
Have a good time.
You too.
All right.
I'm standing here at the 10-foot hole. When we left Weefings Marine, we took a right heading towards Apalachicola. You cross the Apalachicola Bridge, Take your first left at the Gibson Inn, also known as Avenue C. Right there, there's a stop sign. Take your first left, it winds around, and down on your right is Battery Park Marina, also known to locals as the 10-foot hole. This is a great place to launch your boat regardless of the tides. We look at a few things before we make the decision to get out on the water, especially the tides and what effect they'll have on what we planned.
Low tide is the best time to explore the bay, and exploring the bay is a great idea. You'll learn where all the bottom structure is, where you can and can't run your boat at different water levels. Low tide is the best time to do it because if you happen to run up on a sandbar or get in a position that you can't get out of, the next high tide will come in and pick you up and float you off of whatever you're on.
We also look at wind speed too. If the wind is blowing 10 to 12 miles per hour, we take a better look at it. If the wind is blowing 14 to 15, we just stay at home. Good rule of thumb is checking the tops of the trees. If the tops of the trees are moving, it'd be better to stay home. Those rough boat rides just are not worth it.
It really is best when launching or loading a boat onto or off of your trailer to have one person who's in charge. Conflicting instructions are really dangerous in the confusion that there can be on a boat ramp.
I usually stay pretty quiet during this one. I figure if something happens, it's his fault. And although it's not required, it's always best to keep an anchor on your boat. A lot of things can happen that are unexpected.
Right before you go out, it's always a good idea to stop and do a radio check and make sure your VHF radio is working. In a lot of spots on the water, your cell phone won't work, and the only way you have of communicating is your VHF radio. The Coast Guard, the Auxiliary Coast Guard, Larry at Fisherman's Headquarters, and just about everybody else monitors Channel 16. If you're not comfortable talking on Channel 16, then do Channel 11 because the local fishermen and Jeannie's Journeys monitor Channel 11. Channel 16 really is for emergency uses and limited hailing. So let's do a radio check, see how it works. Fish head, this is the Top Cat looking for a radio check.
Top Cat, this is Fisherman's Headquarters. You're loud and clear.
Roger that. Thank you, Fish Head. Top Cat over and out.
Headquarters out.
Whether you're cruising, fishing, or exploring our beautiful coastal waters, you can get more information on our marine area at our website, onthewateronline.com.
Thanks for watching On the Water with Bob and Kara. We hope to see you on the water.